So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another video today. We've got a bit of a different video. We've got a special guest himself, Barry, the Midnight Kid. For those of you wondering who he is, he runs PES Universe, and he has played Efootball. He's been, you'd say how many people have played it? A handful. So we've got the luxury of having him on here today. He's going to be very honest, very blunt about what he's played. I mean, you guys can leave questions in the comments and maybe he'll pop in and try and answer them, but there's no guarantees. So, you know, he's going to do as much as he can in this video. Anyway, Barry, welcome aboard, mate. Pleasure to have you in the studio, even though you're 4,000 miles away. But anyway, let's just crack right into this. So we'll start to just touch upon when he played this so we get a little bit more of an idea. So, Barry, if you just want to take the reins and fill us in on what you played it on and maybe the settings and stuff you used.
Yeah, so I played it. We went over to the play test in Windsor. I think it was the 6th. Yeah, the 6th of September. So, you know what, like 2.5 weeks ago or so. And we played it. There was like a couple of media guys there. There was a couple of guys from the community. You'll probably see a bit of the footage coming out, or the impressions coming out from different guys in the community. And it was a 2-hour play test. There was a small presentation at the start of it, which it just kind of showed us, like, you know, like bits of what we'd be playing, what to look out for. Pretty much we'd free reign to play it then for 2 hours. We played a build that, you know, they said that they were still working on, that they were still going to be improving for launch, which was September 30th. We weren't allowed to capture any footage, which was a bit of a bummer. I would have loved to been able to capture some stuff, you know, so you could have a look yourself and share with all the guys watching. But yeah, we played it for, I think it was a 2-hour play test, and then it was against the AI, so it was 9 teams. So it was 5 of the partner clubs, 4 Brazilian club teams, and then we could either play against, you know, somebody else that was there, or one of the Konami guys or whatever, as a 1v1. Or else against the AI. So the AI was like all the difficulty levels the same as PES 21. Right. The big kind of thing for me, apart from not capturing footage, was the matches were set to 5 minutes. So it wasn't a lot of time to test out a lot of stuff that you'd be interested in, or that I'd be interested in. You know, AI, you know, pressing, you know, if a team is down 1-0, do they push forward and stuff like that? You know, because by the time you've kicked off, you're kind of into, you know, the 25th minute. So it's like, okay, so that was...
You got rushed the way you play, you know? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it was a bit, you know, 5-minute games, like there's not much you can do in that apart from a couple of attacks. So,
right.
Yeah, so
there you go, folks. We played on the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, PS5.
Did play against the, PS5, the AI as well sometimes, and obviously about 9 teams in it. Obviously, let's just dive right into the graphics. People are going to want to know. We've seen the trailers. I don't think it does it justice. Barry's going to let you know right now. He played on a very nice TV, so you know he had the full 4K motion. So how good does it look, Barry? Does the trailer do it any justice, or does it look real nice in person?
No, I thought it looked good visually. That's probably what impressed me most when I saw it. Like, obviously, we've seen, you know, the trailers that have come out, and you know, like it or love it, that's all that we've kind of got to go off officially. As in, that's what they've put out. I mean, obviously we saw the Messi trailer back, you know, way back then. It's not on that level of the Messi trailer, what I played. But in terms of visuals for a sports game, I think it's fine. Sometimes it looks brilliant. Sometimes it looks a bit iffy. I mean, there's still that thing of, you know, the nighttime and the daytime settings with the stadiums. Like, the nighttime looks beautiful, I thought. Played 1 or 2 matches in Juventus Stadium, and it looked proper now. It looked really, really good. But then you kind of have, you know, glass half full, glass half empty, because the scanned players, you know, the player models look absolutely top class. I think they're the best they've ever been. I'd say they're up there with the best in any sports game out there. The way the players move, the way they look, the kits look phenomenal. Little details like that won't, you know, interest everyone, but for me, that's what I was looking for visually, of how it looks when it's, you know, the wide camera, how it looks on the pitch. The grass then is one thing. I mean, the grass, you wouldn't be happy with the grass, Ricky. Yeah.
How's the grass?
Not great. I mean, you have the good and the bad. You have the good, you know, the cut scenes that we've seen, even though they've been, you know, in the trailer and it's not been full 4K on the trailers. We saw that Barcelona video come out a couple of days ago. I think they posted on their Twitter, and you know, the visual quality It does need a little bit of work, but it is going in the right direction. Cutscenes are good, player screens are good, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, in terms of some of the player faces, I mean, they still need a lot of work. I think visually, like if you're playing with the default camera, it looks good. I mean, still, I think they need to tweak the colors a little bit, and the grass and the nets and stuff like that. The crowd, obviously. But in terms of on the pitch, I mean, I think it was a step up from PES 2021, definitely. I think if you have a PS5 and you're playing this on a proper 4K monitor or TV, like it's gonna look very good. You know, I know people were worried that, you know, from the beta and stuff, you know.
Okay, well there you go, folks. Graphically, yeah, I mean it's one of those things that you really got to play the game yourself, folks, to actually get a full understanding. Videos will never do a game justice. So there we go. Right, let's quickly touch upon, which won't be a major thing because I don't know if you really listened to it, but obviously the sound, like the crowd, not really so much the commentary because I'm sure it's the same, but like the actual crowd.
Commentary is world class, I'll say that.
Oh, is it now?
No, the commentary is still pretty much the same. I like, we had the Pulse headsets, right? So the sound actually sounds really good in terms of like the atmosphere and stuff like that. The commentary is pretty basic stuff. I mean, was there any license like chance, or they haven't gone to that? I don't think I heard much of the license chance, but like maybe either they're not going to be in it or they hadn't added them in that build that I was playing. But then again, there might have been. It wasn't something that I actually, like, I'm trying to think back. There is a bit of noise and atmosphere in the crowds like that, but I'm not too sure if it was, you know, like you know, actual proper like noise rather than, you know, just the crowd kind of chanting and stuff. There's different settings now in the audio settings in the game that was in this build. That was like, you can turn off certain areas of or certain parts of the sound. So if you want to just focus on the pitch sounds, like kicking the ball and all that, you can just flick it off without manually having to. There's like presets. So there's one for streaming that you can turn off all the licensed soundtrack in the game. So it's just a flick, and then FIFA has that, I think, as well, right? So let's copy that. Yeah, nice. I mean, again, it's like I don't really remember was there licensed soundtracks, and to be honest with you, I actually played very few games with the headsets in because, you know, you'd be talking to people and chatting and things going on around you. So, you know, maybe somebody else would be able to answer that. But yeah, I'm no good to you with that one. Okay. All right. Well, generally, yeah, it sounds, you know, decent. But we all know how PES sounds, folks, or eFootball. So take it, as I always say, with a grain of salt. Yeah. All right. Let's dive into, obviously, the fun stuff now, the actual gameplay itself, which is going to be the meat and bones of any game. Well, let's just start off with kind of the kickoff straight off the bat. Barry, what did you notice, like differences from kind of playing PES? How's the tempo? Yeah, you know, animations, collisions, and all that stuff. Where to start with this one? I mean, I'll start with from kickoff. Like it is a different experience. That's the one thing. But every game, every year is different. You know, I've played early versions of every game from PES 16, I would say. So like every version of the game is slightly different, whether they've added, you know, like, you know, they've slowed down the pace or they've done one, you know, different things to the tackling or the, you know, physicality or whatever. It was slow. I will say the build I played was slow. You know, the passing wasn't zippy, like it wasn't ping-pongy. We can talk about pass assist later if you want, but just talk about the default. I just left things as they were when I went in and pressed start or whatever. The passing needed to be a little bit more zippier, I think, but there was a weight to the players, like a physicality to the players, that I think that they probably will expand upon. That it kind of gave me pace-wise, it gave me PES 2018 beta vibes, right? Before they kind of changed a few things and sped it up and whatever. But I mean, we know from experience that like the game does change from, you know, before it's out to launch. But yeah, I mean, the pace was good, the shooting was good, it was fine, you know, everything did, you know, what it needed to do for a football game. I mean, it's not miles away from PES 2021, but there's enough in there that you will need to relearn certain aspects. Like the defending is massively different. I think it's nearly game changing in terms of that it's like fully manual now. That's kind of why I had the PES 2018 vibes of there's no team press. So, you know, we saw that in the beta. There is the right stick player switching is back. in this build that I played, so you can have that back in.
But confirmation, folks.
Yeah, definitely. But there is no team press so there's no, I think it's square on the PS5 pad, is it, or whatever?
Yeah, square.
So there's no square. So what you kind of have to do is manually, target whatever player you're controlling. And then, if you want to press, you have to hold L2 to kind of press, but he doesn't go in and win the ball. He just literally kind of stands off a little bit. There's a little kind of pocket of space behind the two players, or in between the two players. It's pretty much like FIFA style of jockeying, from what I've been told from other people, is that there's you kind of stand the player up rather than homing missiles straight in and, go through man and ball and all. So that was the most thing. But yeah, I mean, shooting, passing, the pace of the game, the players, the dribbling. I mean, it's PES I mean, yeah, it's eFootball. And
it does feel like PES.
Yeah, I mean, it's PES by its DNA. It still has the PES DNA there. So that brings with it, familiarity, but it also brings with it, some bad things as well, which I'll get into. But yeah, I mean, if you pick this up, you are, if you were to play this, Ricky, you'd be the same as me. You play a lot of PES 2021. It'll feel familiar but different. The stuff that's different is very different, but there's a lot of familiarity there to it as well, that you're not going to be looking down at the pad wondering what you're doing, even though they've changed the buttons a bit. They've changed the sprint button and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, the defending is probably the biggest one that I noticed was kind of different, as in there's no team press.
Were you a fan of it?
Yeah.
You enjoyed defending that?
I'd say that was the highlight for me of what I loved there. And I hope that they don't touch that, because I think that was the biggest thing for me, is that I am a type of player that I'd love to sit down and learn the defending, take 15-20 hours to actually get good at defending and separate myself of right, I might be able to score, I might be an average championship level footballer in front of goals, but then defensively, I might be like Van Dijk at the back. Yeah, so yeah, that was the biggest thing for me. But I think if people are coming into this wondering, is this a brand new gaming experience? I still think that they have, they still have the foundation of what they've been working on over the last couple of years with PES in terms of the passing and all that. But the defending was difficult, the manual defending. So that would be something, I don't know, would that interest you? Do you like that kind of? PES has gone very automatic defending in the last couple of years, I think. So,
but you can press it. What is it? Twice, 3 times, and then 3 players will home in, which is. But it is also interesting because Konami, obviously it's free to play, so they're going for a different market. It's a casual game, but you're making the manual defending seems like it could turn a few people off. I mean, you think you're going to have to spend hours and hours and hours learning this to really master it?
Maybe I'm just getting terrible at video games now, but yeah, there some people will be able to pick it up and and maybe master it a lot quicker than what I'm saying. But there is definitely I reckon if I was to sit down with the game and play it for 10 hours, I reckon at the end of the 10 hours I would be better at defending. It's not it's not like handing the pad now to somebody that's never played PES before and say, yeah, here's press square and that presses, and that's all they need, or X if you want to win the ball. I was leaving big holes. I was leaving, some of the Konami guys that we were playing, you could see that they'd played it before, that they were playing it that build that was in the office, they were playing it because they were making less mistakes than me. But again, I don't know, as you said, it kind of flies in the face of they're going free to play, they're making it maybe accessible to people, and then they have this added defending that is very manual. So that will be an interesting thing to see at launch, but it is the PES gameplay that we've known, and whether you've either known and hated or known or loved over the last couple of years, but it's different enough that there is a different experience there. Now I'm only talking 2 hours to play the game, so it's very hard to say whether that defending would hold up past 4 or 5 hours playing it, but it could
change, like you said. So, the builds are all different. Remember that, folks. Barry's giving you his opinion of what he played when the game launches. It could be, a month or 2 newer. So
yeah, easily. Yeah, so that's an important thing to remember. I mean, we did play a very specific build, so yeah. But the defending was probably the highlight for me. But then I don't know.
What about negatives? What negatives do you have? What do you think needs to be really ramped up. It's not really finished, you feel, or something that just doesn't work well.
I think one of the things, it's not, I'll start small and then work my way up, because the biggest one is probably worth dissecting a bit, and it's my biggest worry. Right. I think the goalkeepers, you'll not be happy to hear this, but I thought the goalkeepers, they're still a little superhuman. Like some of the saves that they were making. No, it looks good, and I think the way that they've done it is because with the build that I played, I felt that the shooting was very, I won't say that it was FIFA levels of, because I haven't played enough FIFA to be able to be qualified to say it, but I always remember FIFA when I played it back in 15 and 16. If you're in front of goals and you press shoot, it was pretty much a goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You didn't have to pick, where you're putting it. You didn't have to finesse or anything like that. But yeah, the shooting felt a bit easy. So I think what they've done is they've like souped up the keepers a little bit to keep the score lines down. I saw a couple of superhuman, 20-foot
trampoline
jumps. Yeah, trampoline jumps that you don't like. They pulled off some amazing saves that look class. There's a lot of new animations in the game. I think they were saying there's over 4,000 new animations for everything: passing, shooting, goalies, slide tackling, all that sort of stuff. How many of them will be in at launch, we don't know, but they said that they are aiming for 4,000 over the next couple of months. So, but yeah, that was one thing, the superhuman goalies. The second thing I would probably say would be the animations. Like, again, I don't know how many new animations were in there, like in the build we played, and how many are going to be there by launch. But, I did notice a couple of animations that looked a bit kind of off. We could even see bits in the trailer, like that they officially released. There was some collisions and stuff in it, which brings me to my biggest one. The collision system needs a lot of work. That was my biggest takeaway coming away from it. Even after playing it for 2 hours, I was like, there was stuff, some of this clashes coming together, the overall collision and responsiveness of the players. If you're going to have the manual defending as it is, and you're flicking between 3 or 4 players at rapid speed trying to get your shape back or whatever, it needs to be instant, you know what I mean? And it wasn't. Like, the responsiveness and the collision system then, when you actually go into a physical battle, I felt that's what probably needed the most work. It
hasn't been fixed, basically, because PES 21's the same. Like, switching players sometimes a bit of a nightmare. Sometimes it doesn't change the right player.
Yeah.
Is it better at switching to the right player, or is it just how quick?
Switching to the player wasn't the issue I found, but it was switching. That when I switched to the player, it was taking a slight like a second. It wasn't massively noticeable, but it was noticeable enough that you'd say come on, start running or whatever. It was like a slight tiny delay.
You use the right stick or the left?
Yeah, the right. I use both, but mostly the right stick. Yeah.
I'm not one of those. I've never ventured into it.
You've never used the right stick?
I should.
Yeah.
I do now and then, but I'm still very hardcore L1. I've never changed. That's just always been my way. But
yeah, they look to have got better. That there was very rarely a time when I was like, no, I didn't mean to switch to him. Switch to the other guy, and you're trying to fight with your controller. But again, I only played for 2 hours, so it's difficult to say if that's completely eradicated. But mostly, it felt they tweaked in certain areas, and it tweaked it in a good way. Like the refs, for example, there was a lot of tackles that I was putting in that the refs weren't calling, that would have called in PES 2021. So a lot of collisions coming together and stuff that you'd be scratching your head in PES 21 and saying, how is that his free? He came through the back of me. The ref just seemed to play on. He just kind of let it
Okay.
Some people will like that, some people won't.
Was it a foul though, or you think it was fine?
I don't think they were. A lot of them, you see foul, or sometimes the ref blows in PES 21 and they're not fouls at all. You're kind of questioning
no, exactly.
what happened. So I think that they've got that right. But then the bad point of that then is if you're playing offline a lot, you might only have 1 or 2 fouls in the whole 90 minutes of a game, so yeah, that's a fine balancing act that I still think they need to look at. You don't want to be the match stopping every 5 seconds, but at the same time you do want to, if you're playing a derby or something, I know Master League isn't coming for a while, but if you are playing a match, you want to be able to control the flow a little bit better than just being end to end, so it is a difficult one. But the collision system, I would say, is probably the one that I came away with most, as in that's going to be what I'm most interested in looking at come launch and come over the next couple of months.
Right.
I mean, you know, PES 2021 is very playable as well, and it's enjoyable. But at the same time, I don't think anyone would say that the collision system is amazing in it. You know, even though
it's the arms. The arm. Every time I have a foul, his arm's done like a 360 spin and it smacked the guy in the face, and it's like that didn't happen at the beginning of the game. It's like, you know, the data packs come out and they mess the code up, and obviously they don't do it on purpose, but something they do disrupts the flow. So. Yeah, anyway, there we are, folks. There's the some of the negatives from Barry's point of view. The collision system hopefully will get addressed. Let's touch upon, obviously, I think the biggest thing as well was the R2 modifier you were talking about before?
Yeah, so there is this new modifier. I'm not 100% is this going to be in the build on the September 30th? So I could be wrong now. I'm not 100% sure. Because I know when they released the trailer, probably should have done my research before coming on, but I know when they released the trailer and they had the roadmap and stuff, they had in the trailer, you know, like coming in post content or something, because
the sharp kick and stuff like that.
Yeah, so this is effectively what they're calling a sharp kick, which I would explain as basically a modifier that you can hit, like you've got space and you've got the time, you can hit like a 40-yard like long range banger, like with Pogba, like from the middle of the park, like, and it absolutely flies. Like it's Adriano PES 6 style like shots. Like, yeah, I seen some of the boys and I was trying a few of them, and the ball absolutely flies. That was probably my second favorite thing in the demo build that I played, apart from the defending. And then that applies to everything. So you'll see when you're playing, there's like this little blue bar that comes up. I'm not too sure if they, you know, at the time of when this goes live, obviously the embargo will be up, so we've been under embargo for the last couple of weeks, not being able to talk about our impressions and stuff until, you know, whenever, as is the norm. But if they do release footage, I'm not too sure will they, but you'll see like a blue bar popping up that was on the screen, and that's kind of the modifier, and that can apply to like everything basically, shots, passing. There's a bit in the trailer that they released with Rashford with a dipping shot where it like goes up and
I remember that.
Yeah, that's all the modifiers. So that was pretty decent as well, actually. You know, it needs a bit of work, obviously, and you know, I think they've made a lot of stuff contextual. So instead of having a dedicated finesse button, it's now tied into, you know, what the player can do. So if you're Ronaldo, he can hit certain shots that maybe, you know, Messi can't. Messi might have a bit more finesse to his shots compared to Ronaldo, which is pure power, or Lukaku or someone. But again, they didn't really go into that. Like, they didn't explain how that was going to work. It was just in the build that we played, and they were like, yeah, try out R2, see what you think. And that was it.
It'd be interesting why they would make you play a build that's not going to be...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you play an older build, surely.
Saying that it could be in. It's saying that it could be in September 30th. I'm not. I could be totally wrong, as in I could have taken it up wrong, or I could be totally talking out my arse. But yeah, there was that, and then that was. I actually really liked that feature in it. So I hope they add that very soon. It
wasn't like too OP or anything like that. It was just added a little bit more variety.
I didn't think it was too OP from what I played. No. I mean, I'd like to see more variety there, but then we were playing with the same, you know, I played with the same 2 or 3 teams the whole time. Like, it was, you know, I did try with the Brazilian teams and stuff, but, you know, in 5-minute matches, you're getting 2 or 3 chances on goal. That's it.
Exactly.
That was probably the biggest complaint I would have, you know, that, like, you know yourself, if you sit down and play PES 2021 and put it at 5 minutes, like, you're just wasting your time. Yeah, so... Yeah, that was a big disappointment, I think, playing it only for 5-minute games, you know, because even the AI probably would react different if there was more time there.
Well, yeah, let's touch upon the AI real quick. Obviously, like playing. Let's talk about like playing with the AI on your team to start with. So, like, obviously, if you are do you feel like they're smart? Obviously, you can't do the whole team press now. So, with you just controlling one player, is the AI adapting accordingly to players making runs and stuff?
Yeah, I think attacking, like going forward, the players were making a lot of forward runs. Obviously, the player movement off the ball, that's gone now. The player runs is gone, as you said, so I think the AI is going to have to be top notch to, you know, to make it like that you don't miss that after a while, especially online. But yeah, I found that the players were running forward well. Defending, again, I talked to a couple of lads over there, and some people were saying that depending on what way you wanted to look at the defending, I thought personally that the defending was good, that it had to be manual. So when the ball goes past midfield, you kind of know that you have to start controlling the defenders rather than just holding square and running back with your DMF, which is the tactic most people play PES 21 with, is like they'll run back with their DMF past, and defend with their square button or whatever. So now you actually have to flick back to whichever player you want to defend with, get him into position, flick to your centre back, get him in position, and kind of, adapt as the ball is going, if it's going left or right. Some people that I was talking to over there thought that was like bad AI and like bad defensive AI. I liked how manual it was, so I think that's going to be something that everyone that's listening here or watching this video is going to have to decide themselves, whether it is terrible AI and they're just pawning it off as but it's manual as a skill gap, or else that that it's actually a good idea to do that. But yeah, I would say that it probably favored the attacking. The AI were better going forward than going back.
Obviously, you played against the AI. I don't know how many matches did you play actually against. How many games did you play? Do you know roughly?
I'd say 5-minute matches. We had a small presentation at the start of it. I mean, you're talking about what, maybe 10, 11 matches, maybe, even at that, with breaks and getting up and getting a glass of water or whatever, loading screens, all that sort of stuff.
So how many did you play against the AI versus?
I'd say about maybe
head to head.
I'd say about three or four. I'd say. Yeah, I definitely played more against people than I.
Which is how it's really going to be when the game launches, because it's primarily online.
Yeah.
All right. So when you played against the AI, were you playing on Superstar? I know you're pretty much like me.
I played one on Superstar. I definitely played one on the lowest difficulty, because I'm a noob. Yeah, just to test it, just to see were they pressing me and stuff, and they didn't really do much on the low difficulty. It was kind of like
the usual
child's mode or children's mode. So I actually quit out of that game. I just played till half and quit out because it literally it was just too
standing
easy.
Around like idiots.
Yeah. But Superstar, the thing I noticed with the AI, right, is again, I'm keep going back and saying 5-minute matches or whatever, but I thought my interaction with it and the way from my impressions was, I thought from the games I played, I played Arsenal in one game and I went up 1-0, and in the second half Arsenal came out and they switched their formation, you could see they were playing a different shape, and they got the equalizing goal, and then I gave away the AI seemed to be very direct, as in it was literally if they caught you on the break or caught you in possession, it was 2-3 shots and they were going into goal, rather than I don't know what PES 2021 if it was as direct as what I played in the build that we played the demo. But I also noticed a couple of things, they were going into challenges. I got a penalty. Now you say, okay, I got one penalty, but that was in the course of 2 hours that I played, that I got a penalty off the AI. I only played 3 matches against the AI. I did a Ronaldo chop in the box, and he stuck his leg out, up in Meccano stuck his leg out and gave me a penalty. And then I gave away...
Score?
No. The penalties are the exact same.
They're the same rubbish.
The corners, everything is the exact same. No, I missed the penalty in that game. But then down the other end, I think it was Arsenal, and I don't know what player it was. I don't know who it was anyway. But they actually started doing step overs in the box, out in the byline. So cutting in from the corner flag, came in and started doing step overs when they got into the box So which you've never seen now in PES, to be honest. I've never seen that in PES 21. But then again, you might say, I know people that played PES 2021 for 200 hours and never got a penalty off the AI. So I got one.
But it depends. When people say this, the fouls, it depends how you play.
Yeah.
If you're not a dribbler and you don't take the AI on, how are you going to get a foul? You're just going to play tick-attacker all day. Take the AI on, you might actually get more of a foul. So when people say that, it's more about your play style. I know you like to possess, right? You're more like myself, a little bit more possession. Did you feel like the AI were too it's only 5-minute games, so maybe they play different. And this will also kind of tie into the whole fluid formation thing. Obviously, they don't have that anymore.
They're gone. The tactics are completely simplified now. Like,
let's talk about those. Yeah,
that's something. That's something that I went in. So I went in and I looked at the stats and like just to check out what was there. So, so a couple of things. Like now the player form arrows. So. Say, for example, you go into Ronaldo, who was in the build. He was still with Juve, by the way, in the build. He wasn't with United. Messi wasn't in the game either, so if anyone's wondering about that. But Ronaldo might be on like a blue form, like top form. And for the last 10 years in PES, like there's never been a visual representation of what that means when he's on full form. They've added that now, so it'll be like Ronaldo might have a base stat line of, 75 or 80 finishing. But when he's fully up, it'll go up to 85. If he's fully down, it'll go down to, 73 or 4. And then the other thing I noticed was that the stats like have been completely overhauled. So I think the fastest player I saw in the game was like 87, was it 87? 87 speed, I don't know who it was. But when I asked why he was so slow or whatever, they said that there's no player there's going to be no player over 90 with a stat, an individual stat. So I think Mbappe at the moment is like 96 speed or something, like fresh off.
He's going to be a 90,
So he's going to probably be 90 at the baseline or 89, and then that's going to be, and then obviously that includes the defenders then as well. So the speed has gone way down. So I think Ronaldo's speed was something like 78 or something.
Harsh.
Yeah. So, but I think, but
acceleration's still there.
Yeah, all the players are gone down. So like the slower players are slower, the faster players are slightly less fast, basically. That's
why it feels a little bit slower. You feel like the gameplay.
Yeah, I think the stats were driving a lot of what I played, which were pretty decent. Like I had a look at the stats, and the database seems to be very good. Like The overalls are kind of still high-ish, but if you go in and look at the individual stats, they're calculated in a different way, I think, than what they are in.
Any new stats?
There's a couple of news. There's one new stat, and then there's a couple that have been renamed. I can't think of the one that's the new stat now, but it's a defensive one as far as I'm sure. But they've renamed a couple of other different stats, and they've made a couple of different stats, they do a different thing than what they did before, but all the basic stats are there. I think there's one extra stat. I think it's defending. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is defending. But yeah, they've tweaked a lot of stuff, and the tactics, if you're thinking of doing tactical videos on YouTube now, Ricky, I have news for you, because the tactics are so basic. But I don't think, it depends. That might be a good thing and a bad thing. They actually worked. So the 5 tactics, when I went in and set each 5 tactics, you can actually see the AI react. Whereas in PES 2021, probably gegenpress and deep defensive line, they're the only 2 that are visible, I think. The rest are just kind of muddled.
You can't really see. Yeah, that's true.
So if you have 5 different ways of playing, it might simplify a lot of things, which again makes it more accessible. If you want to play wings, you want to play 4-3-3, you're going to play hug the touchline or out wide, play it out wide or whatever. And the AI actually does what you tell them to do now. So I think, man, to be honest, Ricky, if you enjoyed PES 2021, you will get enjoyment out of what comes out on September 30th. But if you didn't enjoy it and it's not for you, I don't think this is gonna. I think you should try it. I think everyone should try it. It's free to play. And have your own opinions on it. It's easy for me to give my impressions and say it's brilliant or it's shit. It's my opinions, but I think everyone should try it and make up their own mind. Same with FIFA, the same with any game that they're interested in. I think you will get enjoyment out of it if you enjoyed PES 21. I think you'd like the stuff I mentioned, because we're kind of similar in how we play. You know what I mean? You like possession. You like kind of, you're not into these cheap ways. I call them cheap ways of winning, the online kind of way where it's ticky-tacky,
long ball and then you're in.
Yeah, you like possession, you like zone defense and pressing when you need to and holding back when you need to. I think if somebody did enjoy the good parts of PES 21, that's still going to be possible in eFootball. But then, you know, I played one match actually coming up just as I ended the playtest. It was the last game that I played, and it was an absolute cracker. Like it was 2-1, I think. Goal in the last minute, like, you know, a classic counter attack. I was full out red, he was full out red. Classic counter attack, went up and absolutely, you know, drilled it past the keeper. And you know, it was like nearly out my seat, like celebrating it. Do you know what I mean? But then I also had games where the issues I've already mentioned tonight were like noticeable enough that I was like, oh, like that was so annoying there. Like I was trying to control Maguire and like what is that? He just literally bounced into Pogba and the two of them fell on the ground. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh,
yeah.
Like, you forget about those bad things very quickly when you're playing the game, but they are noticeable when you are playing them. So like, yeah, I mean, that's how I would preface that, is that like, if you enjoy PES 2021, there's definitely a good game here to be played. If they fix some of the issues and stuff, I don't know, you know, what build is going to come out on September 30th, the same as anybody. But based on what I played, you can still 1v1 is still fun. But when you bring that online, I'm not too sure. It's different sitting beside somebody, you know. But
yeah,
it was fun. I mean, it was fun. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just worried about those issues that I have mentioned. I know I keep going back in it and, you know, being a bit moany, but you know, they have to get the responsiveness right and the collision system right. If you're going to be putting this as a esport game and stuff, you can't be fighting for control and you can't be, you know, bouncing into teammates and falling on the ground. You know, it's just,
yeah, that's true.
It takes you out of it, where it's like, this is a really enjoyable game that I'm having, you know, it's 1-1, and then something stupid happens where your opponent gets a chance that he shouldn't get because of an error with the collision or system or something like that. Or, you know, you go up for a header, you time it right, like the manual, do you know the manual headers that you do where you manually position your player and stuff? Like,
yeah.
You play manual, don't you?
Super cancel's still there, right?
The
You can
super cancel
and all
is
that.
still there, yeah, but it's different. It's like the kick cancel now is on R1, so it's not like square.
Yeah,
square on R1, which is going to take a lot of getting used to.
You're pressing the wrong buttons for the next year and a half trying to figure that out.
Yeah, but again, like my kind of feeling coming away from it was like, if you want to sit down and play this game and enjoy it, you would be able to. But if you wanted to sit down and play it and shit on it, you could as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like whatever.
Right, yeah.
Like it's like PES 21, man, if we keep comparing it to that, because everyone that's listening has probably played PES 21 in some capacity, or FIFA, or any game that you've played a long enough time of. Like, the more you play of it, the more issues that you do see. Like, if you're pumping 300 or 400 hours in a year, like, you're going to see the issues. You can sit down and enjoy it. It is playable, but you know, there is some fundamental stuff as well that needs to be locked down, I think, before launch or soon after launch, if they want this to be enjoyable for people of all skill gaps, you know what I mean, or all skills.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the 1v1 has always been fun. You know, I think PES is fun, and the ball physics, like the actual pace of the game, you know, scoring a goal, like it's PES. Whether that's a good thing for you or a bad thing, it's PES. And like, I do think, you know, if you are comparing it to FIFA, which, you know, is a completely different game that's launching in, you know, a couple of days compared to eFootball, like, you know, if FIFA, the ball physics and stuff in FIFA, obviously I haven't played the new one, but so far with FIFA 21 and that, like PES I think still is a little bit better in terms of how, you know, you can put a ball exactly where you want it to put it. And especially if you play on manual, like the amount of freedom you have with manual is crazy.
I was going to touch upon that, the pass assist. If we could dive into, I don't know what you played on, because I know the default now is what, 3? They've changed it, folks. Remember that. So
they flipped it. So
I think 3 is now 1, and then 4 is manual.
Yeah.
So what did you play on manual? Did you give that a shot?
I played on manual one game, and it was like,
it was like, nah, not for me.
Yeah, it was like, but I don't play PES on manual anyway, so it was alien to me.
I
know.
know.
Like, I've tried it a few times for a laugh online, but no, it wouldn't be for me. Like, I mean,
I play better on manual because I'm more like zoned in. You know what I mean? You have to focus on manual. You will get your ass smashed if you don't. That's why for me, I enjoy the challenge. But
yeah, but it's like people saying, you know, if PES is too assisted, well, turn off the assistance, and it's a completely different game.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
You don't want to try that. You know what I mean? So it's like manual is tough. Like, it's a challenge. Like, I don't know how you do it, but You're more patient
practice.
than me. You're a better gamer than me. It's just as simple as that. But yeah, the default was what I mostly played on. I did try the manual, and like I think I played one game and like I barely passed the ball. So you know, I said I'll leave that to you guys. But you know, I didn't really want to be wasting time when I only had like, you know.
Yeah, of course. 5-minute games on manual. Yeah, as if.
But I did play on the default for most of the game. I'd say eight of the games. I'd say I played on the normal default setting. You can turn off the cursor on the bottom. I know a lot of people were asking me this.
Yes, I'm gonna ask about that.
You can turn off. There's a lot of options to turn off stuff actually and change. Like you can change the buttons. You can change all the buttons back to whatever you want. They have like a button free. I think it's L1. I think it's L1 that's free, so you can assign L1 to anything. It's like an extra button. So if you wanted to put slide tackle as L1, you could, or whatever. I don't know if that's going to work if you change the sprint button. I'm not 100% sure you can change the sprint button, because the R2 button, because that's obviously going to be the haptics, you know, the
that's true.
PS5 haptics. So I'm not too sure if you can change that in FIFA either. But
you can turn off the haptics.
Oh, you can turn off the haptics, yeah. So if you turn them off, you change them then. But yeah, the all of that stuff is changeable. But the pass assist, like, I'm just of the train of thought. I just think you should have manual and one level of pass assist. That's it. Like the default pass assist is enough for like what I saw there. Like they don't need to have another. It's either it should be assisted or manual, and that's it.
That's what FIFA has: assisted, semi, and manual, and that's it. There's three. You don't need to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, it's just far too. Now, I was going to ask about actually when I saw a video one time. There was a little. I don't know if you saw it. There was like a blue cone of vision up when someone was doing something. I was going to ask if you saw that or knew what it was.
The player switching. I actually did notice that over there. I don't know what it is. And we weren't told.
Don't know what it is either.
No.
Oh, okay.
Like, what we were kind of told was that when you are switching the players now, so I mentioned it earlier, the player switching, the only thing I could think of it, like from playing it myself and seeing what it was doing, like, you know, we weren't actually specifically told this is exactly what this feature is. It was mostly like just play it and give our impressions of what we were playing. From what I could tell was that when you're clicking the R stick, there is a bit of control with that cone thing that highlights who you actually select. So if you hold it like further and the cone goes out really wide, it like selects that person. But if you just flick the right stick, like, you know, left and right or whenever, like really sharp flicks, it just targets the closest man to you. So it's slightly less, the right stick selection I found was slightly more like automated, as in like it kind of knew who you were trying to select, like pressing L1. That's what it felt. It felt more like L1 than it had last year, where it was like, you know, you flick in the direction of the player. So with this, I think that's what that was. But again, we weren't sat down and given a spreadsheet of what things were in the game. Like, it was just literally play that, you know, you've an hour and a half, 45, and then see what you think of the overall gameplay, what you think of the visuals, and that was it, you know. But you can turn off a lot of the stuff. You can turn off all the power bars, you can turn off all the cursor bars, you can turn off all the, you know, everything that's normal in PES. You can just make it like the HUD, like, or the HUD, like really minimal if you want it. I'm not. I was a bit torn on the new camera, the dual camera.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually. You read my mind.
In the beta,
how was it?
Yeah, it's fine, like, but it doesn't zoom out quick enough and it doesn't zoom back in quick enough, so it's kind of pointless to me. I just went on to the normal default camera and the game looked way better, I thought, in the normal camera. Like the default was a dynamic wide.
Dynamic wide, yeah.
It's still there, wide, like all them options are still there. I thought that the game looked way better. Like, I thought it looked way better at the angle of the dynamic wide camera than it did in the dual camera. So I think that would be my recommendation to play it. Even though, like, the dual camera is fine, it works, and when it works, it's cool. But you still have that instance of, like, you know, you spray a long through ball from your centre back out to the wing, and the camera like takes a second. It's like, will you hurry on and catch up so I can see where, you know, his defenders are? Like, it's
which isn't going to be good online.
No,
you know what I mean?
No, I don't think nobody will be playing with the dual camera online. That's a fact. Like,
no.
You know, it'd be a disadvantage. So
Okay, all right. Well, we won't keep this super long here. I think we're on about like 45 minutes or so. Obviously, and as Barry said, it's a 5-minute half. You know, he played what he played, and what we're getting from this, folks, is Barry. Just sum up then. If someone's coming at eFootball, you know, what would you enjoy this game? Say if you're coming from FIFA, or is FIFA still going to stay to FIFA? And then finally, like, what's your overall consensus of the game right now? If it was released in the state that you played, would you rate it maybe out of 10 or so?
Yeah, that's a hard one, I think, rating it, because it is like, it's much better than the beta from what I played. Like, a lot of the stuff that was there was a little bit more polished than the beta, but it's still not, in my opinion, it's still not like where it needs to be. Like, I think the collision system and the animations and the responsiveness, they're 3 big huge pillars of importance that need work, like. And then I think, you know, to answer your other question about coming over from like FIFA guys or whatever, I've said it already. I mean, I think if you liked PES 2021, you're going to find a lot to like about this. If you don't, and you've gone off the direction that they've gone in over the last couple of years, I don't think this is going to stop you in your tracks longer than downloading it, playing a couple of games, and then deciding on yourself whether it's for you or not. Like, it is enjoyable. Like, when it plays, it played well for me. Like, I had a couple of bangers of games over there where I was actually really enjoying myself. I also had games where I was like, you know, why you run into that player? Like, why are you on the ground? Like, where are you going? I mean, it is an early version of the game. Like, so there is going to be issues there, and we knew that. But, I mean, I don't, like, we could talk for the next 4 hours. People are only going to be able to decide when they download it themselves and play. If it's for them, it's for them. If it's not, it's not. You know, is it enjoyable from what I played? Yeah, but there's still a lot of issues there that need to be fixed, that before, you know, it would take that next step, I think, of this is actually, you know, addictively fun, kind of like the PES games of old. Because it is different, man. I mean, it's changed a lot. The franchise has changed, and I think that the direction they're going in now, I do think personally my going away feeling of it would be, I do think that there is a brilliant game in here somewhere, but it's how long it's going to take until that game comes out. Like, it could be January next year, it could be November, it could be December, it could be next March. We don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be so difficult. But if people are willing,
you got the new Unreal Engine, right? That's coming out, I think.
Yeah. So that's coming out next year, I think. So they'll probably transition over to that, I would imagine. And that's when we'll see next gen visuals. Like, but that's going to take time, you know. And people are going to have a decision to make whether they want to wait after waiting this time. Like, it's going to be a difficult one, because there is enough in there to play it if you wanted to sit down and play it and enjoy it. Yeah, but there's also enough in there that would make you sit down and say, like, I still need to wait 3 to 6 months to play Master League, or 3 to 6 months to play more than 9 teams, you know. So
yeah, that's true.
It's a hard one to sum up, but I just think that they still, from the build I played, they still need to work on some stuff up until launch and probably after launch.
That's a gameplay rating out of 10. Go on, Barry, quick, just do it. Fire it out.
I'd say
it's the gameplay. That's purely the gameplay. Or do it from, take the beta, the stability test. What would you give that? And then
the beta,
this
like,
one.
from a gameplay perspective, I probably would have given like a 2 out of 10. Like, being generous. Like, in terms of, like, it was so simplified, and yeah, the beta just wasn't like, it is much better than the beta. So I would probably give it like a 5, maybe, like, at a push, being generous. But if they tweak a couple of little things, that would push right up. But if they don't, it would probably stay a 5. Like, you can still have fun with it, and it is an early version of the game. But the collision system needs work, the responsiveness, like, that's probably enough to take the point off, a full point off itself.
I mean, that's a big one, yeah.
You know what I mean? So to me, it's a huge one for me. But then I love the manual defending, so it might push it up to maybe a 6 out of 10. Like, the manual defending, to me, I was going away from it, was like, that was actually class. Like, I actually read, you know, you get that moment where it's like, I read exactly where he was going to go, and I stepped in and took the ball clean, no foul, and I was like, yeah, this is a 10 out of 10 game now. But then the next possession, you know, Harry Maguire standing there scratching his arse, and, like, you don't know what's going on. So yeah, I mean, it's impossible for me to tell, like, what way this is going to be when it launches. But yeah, I mean, there was some brilliant bits in it, and then obviously some bad bits in it. So
Okay.
yeah, it's hard to know, man. It's very hard to know, like, because I think they're going to take full advantage of that this is now a game as a service, like that they're not having to hit deadlines. And if something's not right, they'll probably just delay it and say, yeah, it'll come in the update next month.
Okay, perfect. Well, there you go, folks. Yeah, I think I'll personally enjoy like the manual defending. I think it's going to be really interesting to see like how people react to that online, you know, because if you're not going to be able to defend and you won't like it, then, you know, a lot of people may just go to FIFA and play it.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I can't do FIFA. The gameplay is just not there. As Barry said, this is PES. It's just been redone from the ground up-ish, and we're going to have to probably wait, probably a few years before this really hits the peaks that we expect.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think visually, especially with the Unreal 5, like that's a good bit away, I'd say.
Look, this is the easiest way to do it, folks. Don't get your expectations too high. Download the game next Thursday, play it, enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then leave your feedback. I mean, hopefully Konami are going to take note of what we like, what we don't like. I'm sure they asked you, Barry, what you thought was good and what wasn't. So yeah, any last points you want to touch on, Barry, before we shoot off, or all said and done?
No, man, that's it. I'd agree with you. I think everyone, try it. Try PES, try FIFA. If it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, maybe check in a couple of months' time when they add My Club, or checking in after that. I know Master League is still down the pipeline.
Teams.
Yeah, creative teams.
Whatever they've called it, I don't know.
Yeah. I will mention one thing as well on the like the plan that they have of like releasing My Club and stuff. Like, I think that's going to be like, the gameplay for me is playable at the moment if there was a lot of content. Like, if we get a lot of content to do, whether it's like an offline game mode of like a league, or we get My Club that's just absolutely fire when it launches, I think the content is going to be more important than ever this year. Because I think that the gameplay will be fine. I genuinely do think, and again, this is me being Mr. Positive, and people will give out in the comments, but like, I do think I'm a glass half full person. I think the gameplay will be fine. I think that they will patch it, they will get it right. It'll take a bit of time maybe, but I think it's going to be the content this year. I don't think people are going to sit through another year of PES 2021 with literally just agents as content, and I think that's going to be huge. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know about you, Ricky, but like, I don't think a sports game needs to be like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. If it has, if it's playable, if it's enjoyable.
It's enjoyable, yeah, exactly. You have some stuff to do. That's why FIFA's great online, because you've got so much stuff to do. That's why Wez's always playing it, and now he's converted. Well, that's about it, Exactly.
Voldemort. Yeah, the FIFA Voldemort, I call him.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks, Barry. Appreciate you coming on, mate. Really do. There will be other people today when the embargo's lifted, obviously. Lots of content coming with eFootball. So you're going to get a variety of different opinions. What Barry states may be completely different to other people.
Yeah, man.
But that's life. We've all got opinions.
Look, if you get a load of questions in and you want to do another video where we can hone in, we probably glossed over some stuff because we could be talking for the next 3 hours.
Oh, yeah, that's... I didn't want to put out anything...
Yeah,
I was going to say I didn't want to put out anything on YouTube because of the embargo, but now that we actually have the video out, if you guys have questions, we can always revisit this next week before the game drops. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, just appreciate you coming on, Barry. So I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, and next time, Barry.
See you, man. See you, lads. Good luck.
Yeah.